Tyrion stood in the dark hallway just outside Daenerys' chambers, his thoughts racing like wildfire. King's Landing still smelled of smoke and death. Thousands of innocent people had been burned alive, their screams echoing in his ears even now. He had once believed in her, truly believed. But when she burned the city after the bells rang, something had changed. He had seen it in her eyes, cold, distant, full of fire and fury. Not the queen he had followed across seas. Not the woman who freed slaves and spoke of justice. No, this was someone else. Jon had spoken with him earlier that day, confused, broken, trying to understand what had happened. Tyrion could see the pain in him, the guilt. He loved her, but he feared her now, just like Tyrion did, and yet Tyrion wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He stepped quietly into her chambers. She was alone, standing near the window, looking at the city below. Her silver hair glowed in the sunlight, her back straight like a ruler carved from ice and fire. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly without turning. "I know," Tyrion replied, "but I had to try one last time." She didn't answer, only stared out. The silence between them was heavy. "You killed children," Tyrion said. His voice was quiet, almost trembling. "Babies, mothers, old men who couldn't run fast enough. They chose Cersei. They chose to live under her rule. They chose to let me suffer," she said. Her voice was hard, like stone cracking under heat. "I gave them a chance." "You gave them fire," Tyrion said. "You gave them death." Finally, she turned to look at him. Her eyes were shining, but not with tears. With a strange light. "Not mad, not yet, but close." "You think I'm mad," she said. "I think you're hurting," Tyrion said carefully. "I think you've lost too much. Too many people you loved are dead. Jorah, Missandei, even your dragon." She closed her eyes at the mention of their names. "And I think," Tyrion continued, "that the fire inside you, the one that made you strong, is now burning everything in its path, including you." Daenerys walked toward him slowly. "What do you want me to do? Stop?" "Go to the people who laughed at my family's death. Let Cersei's followers rebuild their lives." "No," Tyrion said, "but rule with justice, with mercy. The mercy you showed in Meereen, the mercy that made you different from your father." She flinched at that. "You dare compare me to him?" "No, I'm begging you not to become him." There was a long silence. The sound of the wind howled outside the broken windows. "I trusted you," she whispered, "and I still believe in you," Tyrion replied. "But not like this. Not with more blood. Not with more fire." She turned away again, facing the city. "They won't love me." "Maybe not," Tyrion said. "But they might forgive you. If you let them live." She didn't say anything for a long time. Tyrion thought she would command Drogon to burn him alive. But instead, she sighed. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. "You're still Daenerys," Tyrion said gently, "and you still have a choice." That night, for the first time since the bells rang, Daenerys didn't speak of war. She sat alone, silent, thinking, and Tyrion left her chambers alive, but not at peace. He knew the real battle had only begun. Saving Daenerys from the world was one thing, saving her from herself would be much harder. Tyrion didn't sleep that night. He sat in a cold corner of the Red Keep, surrounded by burnt stone and the smell of ash. The destruction outside was quiet now, but it felt like the city was holding its breath, waiting to see what their new queen would do next. He watched the sky begin to lighten through the cracks in the tower. Morning had come, but peace had not. Jon Snow arrived just after sunrise. His face was tired, like a man who had been awake all night, walking through a battlefield in his mind. "She's not the same," Jon said quietly, standing beside Tyrion. "She doesn't look at me the way she used to." "No," Tyrion replied. "She's standing on the edge of madness, and we're the only ones left who can pull her back." Jon looked at him sharply. "You still think she can be saved?" Tyrion nodded slowly. "She didn't kill me yesterday. That means there's still something inside her. A small part, maybe just a spark. But it's there." Jon stayed quiet. He didn't want to believe that the woman he loved could become a monster. But he had seen what she did. The fire, the screams, the way she stood tall on Drogon's back as if she was proud of it. "She's planning something," Jon finally said. "She said she's not done, that the world still needs cleansing." Tyrion's face darkened. Then we have little time. He stood up, brushing the dust from his coat. We need to make her see. Make her remember who she was. Jon looked unsure. How Tyrion thought for a long moment. We need to remind her of her past. Not just the fire and blood, but the people who made her strong. The people who kept her heart human. Jon frowned. They're all gone. Not all, Tyrion said. There's one left. He didn't wait for Jon's questions. He went straight to the dungeons, what was left of them. Rubble was everywhere, and bodies too. But deep down in the dark, in a corner cell, there was someone still breathing. Varys. He was weak. His beard had grown, his skin pale, but his eyes still sharp. You're lucky she forgot about you, Tyrion said, unlocking the cell. Varys looked up. She didn't forget. She just wasn't ready to kill me yet. Tyrion smirked bitterly. Well, you're about to earn your life back. Varys was silent as Tyrion explained everything. About Daenerys, about the burning, about her mind slipping further from mercy and closer to madness. You want me to talk to her? Varys asked. After she ordered my death? She trusted you once, Tyrion said. You knew her when she was still the breaker of chains. Maybe you can remind her, Varys sighed. And what if I fail? Then we all die, Tyrion said simply. Later that day, Daenerys walked into the War Council room. Jon was there, Tyrion too, and to her shock, Varys stood between them, her face turned to stone. You should be ash, she said coldly. Varys didn't flinch. Perhaps. But your mercy spared me. You call what I did to this city mercy. She snapped. No, he said. That was vengeance. That was pain. That wasn't you. I am fire and blood, she said, stepping closer. No, Varys said calmly. You were a girl who walked through fire to protect others. You freed the unsullied. You gave slaves hope. You spared those who betrayed you when you could have killed them. That's the woman I believed in. Daenerys' eyes flickered. Jon watched her closely. Tyrion held his breath. Everyone I loved is dead, she whispered. How can I be that woman when the world keeps killing everything good in me? Varys stepped closer. Because if you lose yourself now, they've won. Cersei, the lords of Westeros. The ones who laughed when your brother was killed. You'll become just another tyrant. Daenerys' lip trembled for a second. Then suddenly she turned to Jon. Do you think I'm a monster too? She asked him. Jon stepped forward. I think you're better than what you've done. The silence that followed was painful. The room was holding its breath. Daenerys turned away, walking to the broken window. She looked out over the ruined city. I wanted to build a better world, she said softly. But all I've done is turn it to ash. You still can, Tyrion said. But only if you stop now. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, what would mercy look like now? And that was when Tyrion knew. He had pulled her back from the edge, but keeping her there would be the real fight. The room was frozen for a moment. Jon, Tyrion, and Varys didn't speak. They knew this question wasn't just for them. It was a battle happening inside her. The Dragon Queen, the breaker of chains, the daughter of the Mad King, all struggling in her heart at once. Tyrion stepped forward slowly. His voice was calm but firm. Mercy looks like stepping back before it's too late. It looks like choosing peace when you've already won. Daenerys turned toward him, her eyes still full of that burning storm. But I haven't won. Not truly. The world still fears me. They whisper in corners. The North still questions my rule. The lords bend the knee because they're afraid, not because they believe. Then show them something stronger than fear, Tyrion said. Show them wisdom, Varys spoke now, his voice low. End the cycle, Daenerys. Let this be the last war. She stared at both of them, then her eyes fell on Jon. I trusted you, she said, almost accusing. But you stepped away from me. Jon's voice cracked a little. Because I saw the woman I love, becoming someone I didn't know. That struck her. She looked down. Her hands trembled slightly, just for a moment, before she folded them behind her back and straightened. You're all asking me to give up power. No, Tyrion said quickly. We're asking you to use it differently. Daenerys gave a bitter laugh. Do you know what it took to get here? How many years of pain? How many betrayals? You speak of peace, as if I can just wave my hand and it happens. You can't wave your hand, Varys agreed. But you can choose not to burn another city. Jon stepped forward. What happens next matters more than what happened yesterday. She looked at him long and hard. Then finally she spoke. Gather the people, the lords, the leaders of every house. I will speak to them, Tyrion blinked. You mean a council? Daenerys nodded. If they still doubt me, I'll face them. But I won't run from what I've done. Let them judge me if they must. Varys looked at Tyrion, his eyes wide. Jon gave a slow nod. This was unexpected. The next few days passed in silence and tension. Messages were sent out by Raven. Lords who had survived the war, generals, nobles, and even some from Dorne arrived in what remained of the Red Keep. The air in King's Landing was heavy with suspicion. People whispered that Daenerys would demand obedience or burn them all. But she didn't. She stood in front of them. Not on a throne, not on Drogon's back, but on even ground, in a ruined courtyard. With the blackened stones around her still smelling faintly of smoke, Jon stood behind her, Tyrion and Varys at her side. The unsullied lined the walls, weapons sheathed. I know what you think of me, Daenerys said, her voice echoing across the open space. You saw the fire. You heard the screams. You think I'm mad, that I've become my father's daughter. No one responded. Some didn't even look at her. Others watched with tight jaws. I crossed the world to break chains, to end cruelty, she continued. But I let rage blind me. I became what I swore to fight. A soft murmur rose from the crowd. I cannot undo what I've done, she said. But I will not rule with fear. Not anymore. Tyrion held his breath. I ask you, not to forgive me, not yet, but to let me prove I can be better. Let me rebuild what I destroyed. Let me earn your trust again. One of the lords stepped forward. Sir Davos. He had seen enough war for 5 lifetimes. And what if we say no? He asked carefully. Daenerys looked him in the eye. Then I will step down. A ripple went through the crowd. Even Tyrion's eyes widened. Step down, Varys whispered. What is she doing? But Daenerys kept speaking. If the realm chooses another, I will not fight it. I will not become another tyrant holding power by blood. For a long time, silence ruled the courtyard. Then, slowly, one of the lords bent the knee, then another, then Sir Davos. Still cautious, but nodding with respect. Even Sansa, watching from the northern line, gave a small nod, cold but approving. Tyrion couldn't believe it. She had done it. Not by fire, not by force, but by facing her own darkness and offering something Westeros hadn't seen in years, a ruler willing to be judged. That night, no fires burned in King's Landing, no executions, no fear, but not everyone was happy. Far in the shadows of the city, a group of knights whispered to each other in a hidden hall. She's weak, one spat. This isn't the Targaryen we feared. This is a girl playing peacekeeper. We should have let her burn it all, another said. Now the realm will tear itself apart. The seeds of rebellion had already been planted, and Tyrion, watching the stars from the top of the keep, knew peace was only the beginning of a new game. The following weeks in King's Landing were the calm after a storm, but everyone knew it wouldn't last. The city was quiet, almost too quiet. People had returned to their homes, rebuilding, burying the dead. But their eyes were always watching the Red Keep, watching her. Daenerys kept her word. She didn't punish those who opposed her. She didn't rule with fear. She opened the gates for food and supplies. She let the maesters tend to the wounded, and she sent word to all corners of Westeros. No more fire, only rebuilding. Tyrion stayed by her side through it all. He advised her cautiously, choosing his words carefully. Jon, too, remained close, though the distance between him and Daenerys had not disappeared. He loved her still, but the fire between them had cooled, changed. There was love, but there was fear too, and guilt. But just as Tyrion feared, whispers of unrest were growing like roots under stone. A secret meeting was held deep beneath the ruins of a noble house, far from the keep. 6 men gathered around candlelight, speaking in hushed tones. "This peace won't last," muttered Lord Tarly, his voice sharp with anger. "She burned the city and now walks freely like she's forgiven." "She's playing at redemption," another said. But fire once used does not forget. What happens when she feels threatened again? We don't wait to find out, came a gruff reply. We end it before she burns the North, the Vale, or anyone else. Assassination. Someone whispered. The room went still. A blade in the dark may save us all, the same voice said. Westeros needs a ruler, not a dragon-playing queen. And so it began. Back at the Red Keep, Tyrion sat across from Daenerys in her private chamber. She looked tired, but calmer than he'd seen her in weeks. Her eyes were clearer now, her voice more thoughtful. "Do you think they believe me?" she asked, pouring herself a cup of wine. "Some do," Tyrion said honestly. "Others are waiting for you to slip, waiting for the madness to return," she said with a bitter smile. "Prove them wrong." "Every single day," Tyrion replied. "That's the only way forward," she nodded. "I've been thinking about the future. A new council, one where each region sends a voice. No more Iron Thrones. Just a table with equals." Tyrion stared at her. "You're serious?" "I want to rebuild something better." "Isn't that what you believed in?" she asked. He smiled, truly for the first time in a while. "Yes, it is." But as he stood to leave, Grey Worm entered the room, face grim. "There's been an attempt," he said coldly. Tyrion's blood ran cold. "On who?" "Her," Grey Worm said, nodding to Daenerys. "A poisoned cup left in the kitchen, meant for her wine." Daenerys stared at her untouched cup in silence. Tyrion's voice was tight. "Do we know who?" "A servant. Hired by someone higher." "They're looking into it." Daenerys set her cup down slowly. Her hands were steady. Her eyes were not. "So it begins," she said quietly. "They couldn't kill me with fire, so now they try shadows and poison." Jon burst into the room moments later, having heard the news. "Are you hurt?" "No," she said, standing tall. "But this peace, it's not real. They'll never accept me, will they?" Tyrion looked at her, torn between anger and dread. "Some will. Others never will. Then what am I doing this for?" she asked him. "If I can't change their minds, if they'll always see a mad queen in me, why keep pretending?" "You're not pretending," Tyrion said. "You are changing. You made the right choice. That doesn't mean the world will suddenly applaud you. It just means you're finally standing on the side you always claimed to fight for." But something in her had shifted again, just slightly. The threat had awoken something in her eyes. Not madness, but coldness. A spark of fire trying to reignite. "Bring the servant here," she told Grey Worm. "I want to see him myself." "No," Tyrion interrupted. "Let me speak with him. If you start punishing by fear again, everything you've done will unravel." Jon stepped in. "He's right. Don't let this push you back into fire." She stared at them both, her jaw tight, her hands clenched. Finally, she turned away. "Do what you must. But if this happens again, I won't be merciful." As Tyrion and Jon left the chamber, Jon whispered, "We're losing her again." "No," Tyrion said. "But the edge she's walking, it's thinner than ever." Outside, the stars blinked above King's Landing. The city was alive again, but beneath its surface, blades were being sharpened, alliances whispered in the dark. And as Tyrion looked out over the city walls, one thought haunted him like a shadow. He may have saved Daenerys from her madness once. But how many times can one man pull a queen back from the fire? Tyrion paced in silence as the prisoner was brought into the chamber beneath the Red Keep. The servant, just a boy, maybe 17, stood shackled, his face pale and lips trembling. He was no assassin. He was terrified, a tool, a pawn. The guards left the room and Tyrion stood alone with him. "What's your name?" Tyrion asked, not unkindly. "Edric," the boy stammered. "You tried to poison the queen." Edric swallowed hard. I didn't know it was poison. I was just told to swap her wine for the other one in the black bottle. Said it was stronger, said she'd like it." Tyrion narrowed his eyes. "And who told you this?" The boy hesitated. "I'm already dead," he whispered. "They'll kill me either way." "Not if you speak," Tyrion said. "I can protect you. Can you protect my sister too? My little brother in Flea Bottom?" Edric's voice cracked. "Because they said if I ever talked, they'd be the first to bleed." Tyrion's breath caught. It was worse than he thought. Someone was organizing this, silencing loose ends, using innocent people as shields. He leaned closer. "Then let me protect all of you. Tell me who's behind it." Edric's lips trembled. Then he whispered one name, and Tyrion's face went cold. That night Tyrion stood before Daenerys and Jon in her council room. "It's Lord Rowan," he said flatly. "The boy was just a delivery tool. The real order came from Rowan and a handful of Reach lords." Jon frowned. "Rowan supported her claim during the war." Tyrion nodded. "And now he wants her gone, quietly. Poison first. Blades next." Daenerys was silent. Her eyes were calm, too calm, like the quiet before a dragon screams. "We should bring him in," Jon said. "Put him on trial. Show the realm this won't be hidden in shadows." But Daenerys didn't answer. Tyrion stepped closer. "Please, not fire." She turned to him, her voice cold but steady. "I said I would not burn another city. I never said I wouldn't defend my crown. Defending your crown doesn't mean returning to fear." She walked toward the balcony, looking out over King's Landing. "I gave them peace. I gave them mercy. And they answered me with poison." Her hands clenched the railing. "How many more chances do I give before I remind them who I am?" Jon stepped up beside her. "Don't remind them. Prove them wrong, again. Tyrion's right. Bring them to trial. Show justice, not fire." Daenerys stared at him, searching his face for something. And finally, she nodded. "Summon Rowan, quietly. I want to speak with him myself." Rowan arrived 2 days later under the false pretense of a political discussion. The moment he stepped into the chamber, he realized it was a trap. Guards surrounded him, and Daenerys sat waiting, not on a throne, but on a simple chair, firelit behind her. "My queen," Rowan said stiffly. "Lord Rowan," she replied coolly. "You were quite eager to meet with me, despite what's been happening in the city." Rowan didn't flinch. "I serve the realm, and yet you poisoned your queen." "I protected it," he said calmly. "From another Targaryen tyrant." Tyrion clenched his jaw. Daenerys stared, her face still. "You judge me for what I did," she said. "But do you judge the kings before me who butchered the people in silence? You only fear me because I do it in fire, not in whispers. You fear whispers because you know they speak the truth," Rowan said boldly. The guards stepped forward, but Daenerys raised a hand. Her voice was ice. "Do you think the people will rise for you, Rowan? That they'll cheer your rebellion while they starve in the ruins you'd leave behind?" Rowan smiled faintly. "I don't need the people. I have the lords. And soon I'll have the North." That hit Jon like a knife. "What do you mean, the North?" He growled. Rowan turned to him. "You think Lady Sansa is loyal to her? Your sister is already calling banners, quietly, carefully, but the North remembers." Jon's chest tightened. He looked to Tyrion. Even Tyrion's face had gone pale. Daenerys stood. "I could burn you where you stand." "You could," Rowan said. "But then you'd prove everything I said." She stared at him, then turned her back. "Put him in the black cell," she said. "He'll answer to the realm, not just me." As the guards dragged him away, Rowan called out, "This is your last chance at peace, Daenerys. Next time there will be no poison, only steel." That night Jon sat alone in his chambers, staring at the flickering candlelight. The name Sansa echoed in his mind. Could she really be plotting? Could the North be preparing for war? Tyrion entered quietly. "It's spreading," Tyrion said. "Rowan was only the beginning. There are whispers in the Riverlands, the Vale, even Dawn." Jon looked up. "She hasn't done anything wrong since the bells rang." "And still they plot," Tyrion sighed. "That's the thing about fear, Jon. Once it takes root, truth no longer matters." Outside in the darkness of the city, ravens flew across the sky, carrying warnings, carrying lies, carrying plans. The realm was waking up again, and war was coming. Far to the north, Winterfell sat under a grey sky, its cold wind carrying more than snow. It carried secrets. Sansa Stark stood at the high balcony of the great hall, her red hair dancing in the breeze. Below her, soldiers trained quietly in the yard, banners fluttering, some of them northern, some unfamiliar. Visitors from the Vale, from the Riverlands. Quiet arrivals, quiet meetings, all under the name of defense. But this was no defense. It was preparation. Sansa's eyes were sharp, colder than the ice beneath the castle stones. A rider approached from the west. A raven circled overhead. Another message. Another piece of the puzzle falling into place. She turned as Jon Royce entered the hall behind her. His armor bore the sigil of the Veil. She didn't execute Rowan, Sansa said without looking. That surprises me. She's trying to appear merciful, Royce replied. But mercy means little when the memory of fire still burns, Sansa nodded. Jon won't act. He loves her. He'll stand beside her even as the walls fall. Royce frowned. You plan to take the crown? Sansa looked at him then, truly looked. I plan to protect Westeros, she said. And I don't believe Daenerys Targaryen will ever stop being a dragon. Royce hesitated, then bowed his head. Then the Veil rides with you. A cold gust of wind swept through the hall as Sansa whispered, Let the realm call me traitor if they must. I'd rather be a traitor than a fool waiting to burn. Back in King's Landing, Tyrion sat at a table, studying maps and messages by candlelight. Daenerys stood across from him, her eyes scanning the same parchment. She's calling banners, Tyrion said. I know, Daenerys replied. And if it were any other lord, I'd crush them. But it's Sansa. She was never going to forgive you, Tyrion muttered, even when you showed mercy. She doesn't trust dragons. She doesn't trust you. Daenerys' jaw tightened. Do you? Tyrion looked up. I trust the woman who spared Rowan, the one who wants to build a council, not a throne. But, she asked, but that woman is standing on the edge of a knife, and I don't know how long she'll stay on the right side. Daenerys turned away, silent for a moment. Do you think Jon knew? Tyrion didn't answer at first. I think if he did, he'd be broken by it. Jon was already broken. He stood in the quiet of the Godswood, far from the war rooms and whispers. Ghost was beside him, watching as Jon knelt beneath the old tree, hands clenched in prayer, or maybe desperation. Sansa, his sister, his blood, plotting behind his back, and Daenerys, the woman he loved, the woman who burned a city. He was caught between them, like a sword twisted in two directions. Arya found him there. She stood with her arms folded, eyes sharp as ever. She's doing what she thinks is right, Arya said simply. Jon looked up. But is it right? She saw a dragon burn children, Arya replied. She won't ever forget that. And she won't take chances, Jon stood. And what if Daenerys never burns again? What if she was broken, and now she's healing? Arya shrugged. And what if she's only quiet until someone else challenges her? Jon looked away. So we kill her for what she might do? Arya didn't answer. She didn't have to. They both knew what was coming. A week later, the first army from the north appeared on the horizon. King's Landing was not ready. The city was still recovering. Half the walls still crumbled. The people were confused, frightened, unsure who the enemy really was. Daenerys stood on the steps of the Red Keep, watching the banners fly in the distance. Her heart burned, not with rage, but betrayal. They bring war to a queen who chose peace, she whispered. Tyrion stood beside her. Not all of them. Many are following orders. They still remember the bells. Jon joined them, silent. She turned to him. Is this what your sister wants? Another war? Does she want more blood, more orphans, more ash? I don't want war, Jon said quietly. But I won't fight my family either. Daenerys' eyes softened for a moment. Then you've already chosen. No, Jon said, stepping forward. You need to choose. Meet her, face her, show her what you've become. Daenerys looked at him long and hard. The hurt in her eyes was deep, but behind it, something else flickered. Resolve. Then I'll meet her, she said. But if she raises a sword, I'll raise fire. Jon said nothing. But in his heart, he feared it was already too late. And far to the north of the city, Sansa Stark rode with her banner raised, her face unreadable. She was not afraid of fire. She had seen it before, but this time she had come with ice, and the old Game of Thrones was about to begin again. The air outside King's Landing was heavy with dust and silence. Two armies waited on opposite sides of the ruined fields. Northmen in thick furs under grey banners, unsullied in perfect lines behind spears that glinted like teeth. Between them stretched a narrow strip of scorched ground where grass had never grown again since the day Drogon burned the city. Daenerys rode out first. She wore no crown, only a plain black cloak clasped with silver. Behind her came Tyrion, Jon, and Grey Worm. Drogon circled high above, a dark shadow against the morning sun, watching. From the other side came Sansa Stark. She rode tall, her red hair braided like a northern queen's, the direwolf of House Stark stitched across her cloak. Arya was beside her, silent as the wind, and Lord Royce trailed a few paces back. When they stopped in the middle, neither side moved. The wind carried only the distant sound of armor shifting. Sansa spoke first. "You've built your peace on ash." Daenerys' voice was calm but cold. "And you bring your war on pride." Tyrion stepped forward quickly. "Please, the people have had enough of both." Sansa's eyes never left Daenerys. "You burned them, Tyrion. You stood beside her when she turned the sky to fire. I stood beside her when she stopped," he said softly. "She's not the woman who burned the city. She's trying to atone." Sansa gave a short, bitter laugh. "A queen who kills thousands and thinks mercy is a speech about regret." Daenerys met her gaze. "I gave you your independence once. You called yourself queen in the north, and I let it be. Yet here you stand with an army at my gates. Why, Lady Stark?" "Because peace built on fear isn't peace," Sansa said. "Because every child in the north still wakes screaming from the sound of bells." Jon moved between them, his voice strained. "You're both fighting ghosts. The war's over." "No," Sansa cut in. "It's only sleeping. And if you kill it?" Daenerys asked. "If you kill me, will the realm be safe then? Or will you sit on a throne of the dead and wait for the next rebellion?" Their words fell like blades, sharp and precise. The soldiers watching held their breath. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then Tyrion spoke quietly, the way he used to when reason could still change kings. "My queens, there's a way forward. A council of regions, equal voices, equal rule. No iron throne. Let the people decide their own fates." Daenerys turned to him. "A realm without a queen? A realm without chains," Tyrion said. Sansa studied Daenerys for a long moment. "Would you truly give up power?" Daenerys' lips parted, but she didn't answer. Her eyes lifted to Drogon circling above, and for the briefest second, the light of the dragonfire flickered behind them again. That was when the arrow came. It sliced through the air, black-feathered, whistling. It missed Daenerys by inches, grazing her shoulder, embedding itself in the dirt beside her horse. The Unsullied roared, raising shields. Drogon screamed from the sky. Grey Worm's voice thundered, "Protect the queen!" Chaos erupted. Northmen drew swords, Unsullied formed ranks, and the peace that had balanced on a knife edge shattered in an instant. "Hold!" Jon shouted, running between them. "Hold, gods damn it!" But the line had already broken. One wrong movement, one frightened soldier, and steel met steel. Daenerys clutched her shoulder, the wound shallow but bleeding. Tyrion pulled her behind him. "This wasn't Sansa's doing," he shouted. "Someone wants war!" Across the field, Arya had already vanished. Within seconds she returned, dragging a man by the collar. One of Rowan's men, wearing no colors. A hired bowman. She threw him at Sansa's feet. "Not one of ours," she said. Sansa's face hardened. "Someone wants to finish what Rowan started." Jon's voice thundered over the din. "Enough! Every sword down now!" Slowly, painfully, the noise died. Drogon landed with a quake that shook the earth, but he didn't breathe fire. His great golden eyes fixed on Sansa, waiting for a command from his mother. Daenerys looked at Sansa again, blood staining her cloak. "This is what happens when trust dies," she said softly. Sansa's voice was low but steady. "Then maybe it's time to rebuild it, or bury it." They stared at each other for a long, endless moment. Two queens born of war, bound by loss, mirrored in strength and sorrow. Finally, Daenerys extended her hand. "If you truly want peace, stand beside me when I build this council. Sit at that table, Sansa Stark, not across from it." Sansa looked at her hand, hesitated, then took it. The soldiers watched in disbelief. Tyrion let out the breath he'd been holding for what felt like years, but as the two women's hands met, Arya's sharp eyes caught something across the ridge. A glint of metal, a cluster of riders slipping away into the hills. Too organized for mercenaries, too quiet for retreat. "More players," Arya murmured. "This game's not over." And high above, Drogon gave one last growl, low and uneasy. as if the dragon itself could smell the treachery still waiting to rise. The arrow that nearly killed Daenerys had not just torn through flesh, it had pierced what little trust remained in the realm. The uneasy peace between the North and the Dragon Queen was bleeding, and Arya knew it wouldn't survive a second wound. That night, she hunted alone through the burned-out edges of King's Landing, following the trail of the mystery riders who had vanished after the failed assassination. Her instincts were sharp, her blades sharper. She caught them at the edge of the forest, 5 cloaked figures around a dying fire, speaking in low voices. She didn't hesitate. By morning, 3 of them were dead. 2 were tied, bloodied, to a horse and dragged back to the Red Keep. Daenerys stood before them, pale and silent, her wounded shoulder wrapped in linen. Grey Worm waited at her side, hand on his sword hilt. Jon and Tyrion stood just behind, and Sansa, still stiff from yesterday's chaos, watched from a distance. Who gave the order? Daenerys asked the taller of the prisoners. He spat blood at her feet. Tyrion stepped forward. "If you don't speak, we'll hand you to the Unsullied. They're not known for soft words." The man looked up. "We don't serve lords. We serve the realm." Daenerys' eyes narrowed. "You're no rebels. You're trained. You knew exactly when to strike, exactly where I'd stand." "Who are you?" The man hesitated. Then the second prisoner spoke. "We were sent by the citadel." Silence fell like a hammer. "The Meisters?" Tyrion blinked. "They've been preparing for years," the man said. "Since the Mad King, since Robert, since you dragons came back. They saw what magic and fire brought to Westeros and swore it would never rise again." Jon's face darkened. "So they sent you to kill her?" "To kill the flame before it spreads," the man said. "Targaryens burn the world. We were ordered to stop it at the root." Sansa stepped forward now, voice sharp. "You tried to start a war between us, North and South, fire and ice, and it almost worked," the taller man sneered. "Because in the end, no one trusts a dragon." Daenerys stood quiet for a long time. Then she turned away. "Burn them," Grey Worm said without emotion. "No," she said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "They die. The story ends. But if I let them live, and the world sees what they tried to do, why they did it, the realm may finally see the real threat isn't fire. It's fear of change." Tyrion watched her closely. Her hands trembled just slightly, but her voice was steady, not weak, not mad-measured. "Take them to the Great Hall," she ordered. "Tomorrow I'll put them on trial, before every lord and lady still breathing in Westeros." The next day, the Great Hall of the Red Keep was filled like it hadn't been in years. Lords and ladies stood beside soldiers and small folk. Daenerys sat not on a throne, but on a stone platform level with all the rest. Beside her, Tyrion, Jon, Sansa, and Samwell Tarly, who had come from Old Town with a scroll he never thought he'd use. The prisoners were brought forward. Sam read the order, aloud, written and sealed by a secret council within the citadel. It was undeniable proof. The Maesters had feared the return of dragons for decades. They believed magic would break the world again, and so they tried to cut off the fire before it grew. Gasps filled the hall. Lords muttered. Even Arya looked stunned. Daenerys stood. Her voice was clear. "You feared fire," she said. "So you chose poison. You feared a queen. So you chose shadows and knives. You feared the unknown, and chose treason." She looked at them, truly looked. "But I choose something else." She turned to Tyrion. "Let them go!" The room exploded in whispers. Tyrion stepped forward, stunned. "Are you sure?" "They'll go back to the citadel," Daenerys said. "And tell them this, the Dragon Queen chose justice, not fire. Let the world remember that. It was a risk, a dangerous one." But as the prisoners were dragged away, something changed in the room. The fear cracked slightly. A few lords bowed. One even clapped. Later that night, Daenerys stood on the balcony with Jon. "You saved me," she said. "No," Jon said. "You saved yourself." She looked at him. "But they'll never love me." "They may not," he replied. "But they may follow you. And that may be enough." He took her hand. Behind them, Tyrion poured a drink with a sigh. 7 hells. I think we might actually survive this." 1 month later, a new council formed. No Iron Throne, no single ruler. Lords and ladies sent voices from every corner of the realm. Daenerys remained a symbol, but not a queen. She chose to step back, not down. Tyrion led the council. Sansa ruled the north freely. Arya sailed west. Jon stayed by Daenerys' side, not as king, not as hero. Just as a man who had seen the fire and stayed anyway. And Drogon, he flew west too. He had no interest in thrones, councils, or crowns. Only sky. The game of thrones had ended, not in fire, not in blood, but in mercy. And mercy, in the end, was what saved them all.